Hey folks, welcome to Elseworlds Exchange. I'm Sal, and I'm joined today by Jason Inman again. Jason, welcome back to the show, dude.
Always lovely to be here. I'm always, I'm just going to say this, man. Every time you go, hey, I'm Sal,
Yeah,
I am so trained to go, I'm Jason.
I was gonna let you do it, but like, it never works. Every time I leave it
It's
open.
the delay. It's the
It is
delay.
the delay. Yeah, trust me, we would. Yeah, but I'm good. It's good to know that we're on the same wavelength because I was like, I left like a fraction of a second just to see if you jump in. And I'm like, there's too much of a delay in the time. When
All right, here, let's do. All right, here we go. Let's do a take two.
All right.
Let's do a take two. I'm ready for it. Okay, here we go.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Elseworlds Exchange. I'm Sal.
I'm Jason.
Hey, welcome back to the show, man. And listen, we are going to be talking about your successful Kickstarter in a little while. But for now, we're going to talk about the biggest villain in the DC universe today. And I guess it's not Darkseid?
Yeah, right?
Well, I mean, like, and it hasn't been for a while, right? Because, I mean, remember the Darkseid War when he just got punched and died? And you were like, didn't he just die in Final Crisis? Like, wasn't that only a couple years ago?
Wasn't he just on a Justice League book as
well?
Yeah,
wasn't he a member of the Justice League?
Also,
just like Odyssey?
Wasn't he just a baby?
Yeah, there's no consistency. I remember I just picked up the Grant Morrison multiverse map because it is a source of contention here at the office. My team hates it. They think it's stupid and they like loathe it. I know. I saw it in your show last time, and I'm like,
I got that at San Diego Comic-Con at way back in the day.
Yeah.
In like 2011 or when the Multiversity was coming out, and they gave that to the crowd, and I got that's actually signed by Grant Morrison.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, mine was bought on eBay for $1. But
I love that. I love that. Actually, Grant Morrison designed that.
He did.
Okay, so tell me the contention. Why did your team not like it?
Well, we one of our earliest episodes of like our weekly comic book review show was the Multiversity, and like the whole conceit of the channel was like, I kind of know about comics, my cohorts don't.
Mm-hmm.
But we all read this one issue, and they were like, what even is this? And it was during a time when comic books were kind of like impenetrable, and movies were just starting to come out about, like, the MCU was fledgling.
Yeah.
And so new comic book readers were starting to come in. And then the Multiversity came out, and they were like, this is not what new readers are like. This is going to scare the hell out of any new reader.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Right. And DC was like really pushing it. So it's like, DC's like, listen, if you want to like DC, the Multiversity. And it's like, no, if you love DC, the Multiversity. But if you want to get into DC, you may not want to start with the Multiversity. Now, I have since changed my tune about Multiversity, about the concept. But the idea of like a ship that travels between multiverses that runs on music, it all sounds very heady and Morrisonian-y. Like, Grant really, when Grant decided he didn't have an editor anymore, he just went full, they went full Grant Morrison. I forgot, I'm sorry. Grant prefers a different pronoun. So
that's right.
Listen, it's been 20 years. Give me a break. I'm trying to change it, everybody.
Hey, you acknowledge it. That's all you need to do, and you change. That's all it is. Yeah.
But once Grant Morrison stopped being edited, they went full, like, they drank their own Kool-Aid and went full Grant Morrison. And I prefer Grant Morrison with a little bit of resistance, And I feel like the Multiversity is a representative of, like, kind of just, like, oh, okay, so you just found out you don't have, like, that no one's going to tell you no.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is. And it's like trying to put limits or restrictions or maps on multiverses, which are just stories, is so, like, comic booky and silly. I don't know. It just, for some reason, it really rubs my team the wrong way. I have since come around on it to the point where I'm like, I'm on the other side of it, where I'm like, but even then, like, that, like, editorial doesn't care. Like, there's this map, and they're, like, selling it to the audience, and they're like, this is what the reality of the DC universe is.
Mm-hmm.
Unless one of our highest paid writers doesn't want to do that, in which case, just forget about that map.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I agree with you. It's funny. My statement to a lot of what you were just saying is I don't think the problem was Grant Morrison.
Right.
I think the problem is that everybody since Grant Morrison has been trying to do a Grant Morrison impression, and they're not Grant Morrison.
We're going to talk about a book that is just Grant Morrison. Although Grant Morrison is everywhere. Like, everyone talks about ripping off Alan Moore. I'm like, no. You can pinpoint the Alan Moore ripoffs. the Grant Morrison stuff is everywhere.
Well,
It's in the lifeblood.
Well, I think it's because you got to realize, like, all the writers that are out there now are the writers that would have been influenced by JLA.
Yeah.
In the 90s Grant Morrison run.
Right.
Which I still think is the best Justice League run of all time.
Easily.
I think it cannot be beat.
No.
You know, it's so funny. You were talking about the multiverse map and all these other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to say that I actually love the multiverse map. Okay. And I love the idea that they've held to it for at least 12 years now.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm happy about that, because usually with that stuff, right, they put it out there and then they immediately throw it away. Immediately.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that they've held to it. That they're like, this is the multiverse. If you want to know what it is, here's a map. By the way, it's a cool design. It looks cool.
It is. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
So that's really neat. But there is, to your other point, there is something inherently... How do you define or put limits on a fictional universe that can always be expanded? The way exactly as I said, like when we bring in the next hotshot writer, they are going to completely flip the table, and then it doesn't exist anymore. That's part of the business, right? It's funny to me because, again, when you look at the big two superhero companies, you look at Marvel and you look at DC, and I think DC gets into problems with this. DC constantly wants to define, put fences up, and make handbooks that tell you how their universe works.
Absolutely.
And I find Marvel is more or less like, the less said, the better. Or you're like, what about the 616? And they're like, 616? Does that exist?
That is all Joe Quesada being like, I don't like that. We should be Earth 1. Like, we should be Earth Prime. I don't like the 616.
Yeah, they're basically like, they do an event like Spider-Verse, and you're like, oh my God, there's the Marvel multiverse. And then you talk to, like, you know, somebody in the big of like CB Sobolski or Tom Brevoort, and they're just like, do we have a multiverse? And you're like, no, you do. You do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's undeniable. It was a linchpin of your entire Excalibur run. Like, man.
But is there a right, or, you know, it's so funny because I feel like the perfect answer is right in the middle. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, yeah, define it a little bit, but you don't want to define it too much because it is a concept that we'll never understand, and you don't want to define it. And it's funny because I feel like I kind of feel like the last 30 years of DC have been, every time they do a crisis, they try to put a new guidebook to the multiverse.
Yes.
And then 5 years later, they break it again. And then they break it again, and they break it again. And then Marvel is just like, whatever.
Yeah, we don't care. Like, just whatever. And, you know, we trust the fans. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's really that... I don't think it's that kind. I don't think it's like, the fans are our best editors. Let them do it. No, I think it's just more like, if somebody really cared, they'll figure it out.
That's what that's what I say. I also say, we say this on our podcast, Geek History Lesson, all the time. Make your own continuity. Yes. So whatever you think is in continuity is in continuity. Whatever you think is not in continuity is not in continuity. And I honestly think, you know, I think where we're going with this new DC crisis, I think we might be defining the continuity probably too much.
Yeah.
I'm willing to be I'm willing to be proved wrong, because as I said before we recorded, Sal, I love crises. I love the DC universe. It is my favorite universe. Yep. You know, and to like talk about this, the big villain and the great darkness, the ill-defined great darkness, you know, I want to say that I read Justice League Incarnate because that's the big thing, and it seems like it's leading to the next crisis that is going to be called, I've heard it. The rumors are the Secret Crisis, maybe even Dark Crisis.
Who knows? The Secret Crisis. You got to hang on to that one for the because Secret Crisis was teased by Johns in Doomsday Clock as the Marvel DC big crossover that'll never happen. But you got to hang on. I expect them to call it the Great Darkness Saga again, because that's what the Legion of Superheroes event was called, and it's what Williamson and Culver are trying to like harken back to. I don't know what they're going to call it. I don't even know what it's supposed to be, honestly, because I don't know. It's like, okay, so from these issues, they basically give you the idea that there's this black hand out there. Yeah. Not to be confused with the Blue Hand that created the multiverse.
Oh, see, so that's funny. So I thought the Blue Hand that created the multiverse was the Hand of Light they show in these issues, and that the Hand of Darkness is this villain.
Oh.
See, it doesn't make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, like, and what's funny is it doesn't make any sense. It's not terrible. Like, maybe we just need a map, like another thing that is just like.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Like a flow
I'll start drawing it right now.
Please, yeah. Well, maybe not, because we don't know where it would start. But this whole great darkness is born from, I think, a desire for it to make sense. And I remember after the New 52 had worn out its welcome and became looser than it was, because New 52, they're like, it is this, and then they went, I mean, unless you want to do something or you.
Yeah, that's fair. They did do that,
right? And then it eventually just became what the writers who were born in the 80s remembered. And like you can imagine, I know that Scott Snyder was really excited about the idea of like redefining Batman. You know, being like being told. I remember he told us the story a while ago about how DiDio told him you got to do the origin for Batman, and he was like, well, where do we start? Like what do I use as the basis? Like, do I keep year 1 and this is year 2? And DiDio's like, pretend like none of that happened. You need to pretend like none of that happened. You're doing your year 1. Like, that's how you're doing it. And I can imagine for a lot of writers who were teenagers when they read year 1 or Dark Knight Returns going, boy, I really don't want to do that. Like, I mean, Scott was emboldened by it and wrote like Zero Year, which people adore. But I can imagine a lot of other writers like begrudgingly going along with it, particularly someone like Josh Williamson, who loves characters like Connor Kent, Tim Drake, you know, the Legion of Superheroes, these characters who were defined by the DC multiverse and the looser restrictions of the post-crisis universe.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so when I read this reveal that happened in Justice League Incarnate 4 about that, you know, and I do love the picture of the hand, and you see like Superboy Prime and Mr. Mind and Magog, and I wanted to ask you, one of the fingers, there's a dark person with a light in their face. Who is that?
Okay.
That's the one I didn't know.
Yeah, I recognized that almost immediately, and I was like, is that who I think it is? It is from Jim Starlin's Cosmic Odyssey.
What?
Yeah, because in Cosmic Odyssey, Darkseid is trying to take over
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, it is a deep cut. It's a really deep cut. I'm like, is this even in print anymore? But,
no, I don't think it is.
Darkseid teams up with like Orion and the Justice League, and they want to get control of this entity, which I believe is the anti-life equation incarnate.
Okay.
It was just called anti-life.
Okay. Well, then good for them for deep cut. You know, like I said, like it's I don't have a problem with the idea that there is a bigger bad out there that is you know, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
Isn't that just what happened in Dark Knight's Metal?
Yes.
Because wasn't it the mother of the universe? That was the whole idea, is that she was the mother of the multiverse and the Anti-Monitor and all those people?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. Perpetua was the entity behind the Source Wall, who literally created the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor. She's the mother of the multiverse, and the multiverse is supposed to be chaotic and evil, but we act against it. I don't know. I loathe that concept, so I'm thrilled to throw Perpetua away. But this doesn't even overwrite that. This is like, no. Yeah, that'll happen. And behind Perpetua,
so
the great darkness. Like,
yes, so we're sort of getting into a Spectre problem, like James Bond, where, you know, nobody needed the Daniel Craig James Bond movies to all be tied together, and then they did it in like he walked through a hallway and there were all these targets there, and you're like, oh, I was the man behind all of them, and you're like, well, a couple of them specifically, I know you weren't.
Right.
Because they were free agents.
Yeah.
So, okay. But that's what this reminds me of. Like I said, we're constantly like saying there's another man behind the curtain. There's another man behind the curtain. There's another man behind the curtain.
And we're
man or woman, whatever.
Man. Yeah, well, that's true. But yeah, the expression, the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think? Okay, you know, the one thing that I think is interesting about this, that is really interesting, is I like the idea that Darkseid is like anti this thing.
Right.
And that his crisis was not because I love Final Crisis, actually.
Of course, yeah.
I'm a big fan of that one. And it is interesting that they made this distinction, but there's a problem. And let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Darkseid is all over Justice League Incarnate.
He is, yeah.
I've never enjoyed stories where Darkseid is just sort of hanging with the pals and talking to people. To me, he's like Superman the animated series. That's the way I see him. He is the person in the tower that scowls at you and maybe says 5 words. But the minute you have like long conversations with Darkseid, he becomes kind of goofy to me.
Well, you demystify him, right?
Yes,
like
there you go.
That cartoon is it's just like the shining example of the potential of the DC universe, man. Because like I, as a kid, didn't regard Darkseid. Like I had a Darkseid Burger King like cup character along with like Wonder Woman and Batman, like, so I didn't really understand what the appeal or the problem. I mean, I read what's it called, not Cosmic Odyssey but Legends, where Darkseid's like Darkseid is doing this kind of like story of Job with reality, and I'm like, this is very silly. And then you see the Superman animated series when they first established Darkseid, and you're like, oh, like this is what they were thinking of the whole time when they're writing Darkseid. But we're not able to portray it. Have
you seen that documentary that's on... some people have uploaded it to YouTube, but there is a documentary on the recently released Superman the Animated Series Blu-ray.
No.
Where they talk about the creation of the series, and they talk about that very early on, a lot of it's about the design. There's an excellent YouTuber, God, I can't remember his name, who does like talking about the Bruce Timm verse, and he talks about that for a long time they could not design the look of the series, like how to make Superman look, as originally they were just drawing him like the Fleischer cartoons.
Yeah.
But another aspect that this documentary reveals on the Blu-ray is that they had a real problem with how do we make this different from the Fleischer cartoons.
Yeah.
And they said that it wasn't until Darkseid they were like, oh, let's just do the fourth world. Because we all like Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And it's Watchtower Database. Jack Black put up. Yeah, Watchtower Database did an excellent video. Go check them out. But also in this, it talks about because they did the fourth world, that's how they made their show different. And when you think about it, you're kind of like, oh, that is the thing. It's Superman the Animated Series that made like Darkseid sort of a household name. Like we wouldn't have had Darkseid in Zack Snyder's Justice League if it wasn't for Superman the Animated Series.
No way. You wouldn't have I wonder if Morrison would have thought to use Darkseid in Final Crisis. Like would have been about that.
I think Morrison might have, because he is a deep cut, but I don't think we'd see Darkseid, because remember Darkseid, and even he was this way in the 90s too.
Yeah.
He was very much just like, you'd see him every once in a while.
Right. No one ever wanted to use him. It was really kind of like, it was at I'll do one better. In the Supergirl, the Batman, Superman, Jeff Loeb, Michael Turner book.
Yeah. They
would not have done the Darkseid thing without the animated series. Like that Darkseid is the Darkseid of the Superman animated series. Like you could tell they were like inspired. But now I feel like
Darkseid never leaves anymore. He's always around.
Well, because he's the big bad, because you couldn't define who the big bad of the DC universe was up until Darkseid, right? And it's funny, because I feel really... not that I feel bad, but like I hate that Morrison took painstaking effort to create this map that establishes that the Fourth World and Apocalypse, Darkseid, that's all outside continuity. So the Darkseid of every story is the same Darkseid.
Yeah, and which I love. I love.
Me too. And then immediately, the New 52 is like, nope, he's Rogolzar. Like he is just he's monosyllabic. He fights, he punches, and he doesn't remember anything. He's got a totally different costume. And I'm like, that's the antithesis of what you just established. You just established it, and then they're like, nah, he's reboot. He is not immune to reboots. And I'm like, but then what's the point? What's the appeal of Apocalypse, Darkseid, the Fourth World if they could all get rebooted? Like, what are they outside of just being Eternals or Inhumans? Like, just boring Jack Kirby creations. Like, being outside continuity makes them have this special distinction.
Oh, man, we're going to be talking about the Eternals a lot recently if the recent rumors are to be true that have you heard the rumors going around?
No.
Okay, so I have no idea. I've seen this on a couple places. I've seen a couple people share this to me. This would be a whole other video, my friend.
Oh yeah.
But there's that Marvel storyline coming up, Judgment Day or whatever
Judgment
it is. Yeah, and apparently it's about the Avengers versus the X-Men versus the Eternals.
Yes.
The rumors going around is that in that storyline they're going to say that mutants are deviants.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I have heard.
And
this.
that's how we get them into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh.
Yeah. Which I was like, I don't hate that.
No, I don't hate it, but I'm not like I.
But but there you go.
That is interesting. Yeah. Okay, that's that's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's one of those where I'm like, well, hopefully the movie like kind of makes it work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But in the comic books, I'm very much like, oh, okay, this is corporate Disney told you what to write. Got it.
That's exactly what that is. Oh, Kevin Feige's earning his keep over as chief creative officer of Marvel or whatever the hell his title is. But yeah, man, no firmly established baddie of the DC universe. Like, there's nothing really. I mean, like, you look at Crisis on Infinite Earths, the first Crisis, and like, who's like the Anti-Monitor's the big bad?
But he was a brand new character.
New character.
He was a brand new character.
Yeah, and even then, like, yeah, he's a mustache twirling evil bad guy with a big gun. You know, and.
I think the Anti-Monitor is a good villain, but I'll tell you the reason why he's a good villain. I think is because unlike Darkseid, he's been brought back, which is the sad thing about it. But for a long time, the only story he ever existed in was Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Right.
So it was a big deal. It was kind of like Galactus. Like now, Galactus shows up to Earth every 5 minutes, but like at the time, Galactus came once. The Fantastic Four beat him, and it was like, whew, man, that was a big deal.
Yeah, we dodged a bullet. We hope may he never return. You know, like you can tell Galactus stories, but
now he comes by every Super Bowl, so it's like nobody cares anymore.
Right? Oh, it's Galactus again. Well, don't step on the church.
Yeah, please, whatever. Okay, hey, Galactus.
No, the use of him, I think, in Sinestro Corps War was kind of awesome.
Yes, that was one of the few times where I was like, okay, like this is a nice little like, oh, okay, twist here.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. What do we think? We're introducing this new big baddie out there.
Yep.
To say that everything is connected.
Right. It's all connected. All the crises are a result of extensions of the Great Darkness. Although, I got to tell you, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to address because I hate Magog being there. Because okay, so I know that like Kingdom Come, then there's the Kingdom and whatever. There's like all these sequels and continuations.
Well, and they're one of the Earths on this map up here too.
Yes, they are.
You know,
I love Kingdom Come, and I hate the idea of like using it, mining it, and like returning to it. Magog is a great character in that one book. Yeah, and I keep seeing him other places. Like I keep seeing him being, and I'm like, his redemption is over. Like we did it already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like his whole like he was a young upstart. He postulates that Superman's the old guard because he doesn't know from better. He makes this huge mistake. He regrets it. He's punished for it, and then that's it. But to have him be an extension of some greater evil, it takes away from the redemption. He's a man. You know, he's a man who has done wrong. Like.
Yeah, I understand your point. You're saying that he's too elevated.
I think, like,
I agree with you. I agree with you.
The finger of the Great Darkness, you know, like more like Darkseid isn't a finger of the Great Darkness, but Magog is.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, I was surprised we didn't see Hal Jordan on this, like Parallax on this. I was trying to think about a couple other ones that we might have. Well, because like they got
Extant.
They got Extant, which is 0 Hour, which although I think 0 Hour is more Hal Jordan. We have Superboy Prime.
Yes.
We have Cosmic Odyssey Boy. We have 52.
Right.
Is there anybody missing? I mean, who else would you put on that finger?
I mean, I would probably put the Batman Who Laughs or something on there, or Perpetua.
Or maybe the Anti-Monitor?
The Anti-Monitor, yeah, absolutely. But even then, like they nerfed the Anti-Monitor in the Metal Wars as Infinite.
Yeah, now it's called the Metal Wars.
I appreciate them calling it something else because I'm sick of calling Dark Knights anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man. Oh, what about Dr. Manhattan?
Oh, you know what? They probably can't. They probably don't want to put. You know, I would imagine
he's in this book. Like they do address it.
They do address him,
but Manhattan was affected by the Great Darkness.
But they don't show him.
No, they show his logo.
And they don't name him. So I kind of think they're trying to like push that. Look, I'm a big believer in that the Alan Moore Watchmen world and the DC Comics world should have never mixed ever.
No. Yeah.
Because they're different universes, and I thought a lot of times in Doomsday Clock that DC characters were not acting like themselves.
Yeah, that's fair.
In most of that book, you know, I don't know. I you know, they always say make your own continuity, and I say Doomsday Clock doesn't exist in my universe.
Ah, man, Doomsday Clock is an interesting mixed bag because like that book looks amazing.
It does look amazing.
And
it's a good idea.
And I love the idea.
The premise of it is a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. I think Perpetua has to be one of the fingers. I would replace. I mean,
that's fair.
The fact that Williamson wants to do Cosmic, like the fact that he wants you to go back and read Cosmic Odyssey because I'm sure he's going to be pulling threads from there. So he puts the anti-life as one of the fingers. So you got to keep that, but replace Magog with Perpetua. But
I agree.
I'll bet that maybe he doesn't want to use Perpetua because nobody likes Perpetua, and we're all sick of her. I mean, I am.
I mean, yeah. Well, because it's so funny because that story, just like this story, has a lot of elements in it that just don't make sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I still can't tell you what happened in Dark Knight's Metal or Dark Knights. I can't. But I will tell you this. I'm reading this as well, and I'm like, I don't know what this means.
No.
I should know what this means. I mean, you and I are the two people that probably should know and should be able to tell the internet what this means. And if you and I are like, I don't know.
No, dude. Like, this is like, and then Chris Arendt from
Newsarama.
Newsarama.
Yeah, great guy.
He wrote a really terrific like breakdown of it, and he gets details wrong. And I don't like Chris knows what he's talking about, so like I get it. But like even Chris is having a hard time, and he wrote an entire column basically breaking down what this whole thing is. And then he said that Batman killed Darkseid at the end of Final Crisis, and I'm like, no, he didn't.
Oh yeah, because he Superman.
Superman kills Darkseid.
It's Orion, isn't it? Or isn't the Flash's, or is the Black Racer?
Yeah, it's the Black Racer. You're right.
Yeah.
He gets like 3 major blows. It's the bullet, it's the song, and it's the Black Racer. In any case, it's just like the fact that so it's all connected.
Look, I want to ask you this question, Sal. I want to ask you.
Yeah, please.
What do you think? Look, because Josh Williamson is a great writer.
Yeah,
and he's a great writer. He loves the DC universe, which is very exciting. You can really tell. I mean, Poland Cosmic Odyssey is great.
Yeah.
What do you think is the story he's trying to like? Why
is this?
What do you think he's trying to attempt this by saying that there is a bigger bad out there that connects to everything?
I honestly believe because like he's explained this on this show where he's like it's a 3-act structure. Like there's Infinite Frontier, which leads to this Justly Incarnate. Yeah, which then leads to this, like to the next thing, and
which to whatever the crisis is.
Whatever the crisis is, right? It's like it's this big thing, and he loves 52. And
I love 52.
Right? Who doesn't? And he loves DC continuity, and I think he's because he is kind of like the big man on campus right now at DC. He is using his clout and his name to be able to clean this up, because for his entire tenure at DC continuity has been upside down, inside out, and like wrong. And so he's like,
because he came in at the New 52.
He came in the New 52. So like even he's like, I want to write a story about Wally, and they're like, you can't, like immediately, like right out of the gate, he can't do any of the things he wants to do. I think his what book did he write? He wrote one of the Wildstorm books for the New 52. Did he really write?
Who is the girl in the Wildcats who like dances and she has a purple costume?
Voodoo?
He wrote Voodoo, dude. That was his, like, I think one of his first DC books.
I did not know that, because I remember them having a Voodoo book and going, why?
It was that one, and it was something else. Like, but Voodoo, he wrote like the first 6 issues of Voodoo, and I believe that was one of his first DC books, if not his first DC book.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's
like
awesome.
2011.
But you can tell, see, like, but he picked Voodoo, right? Because like, who wouldn't?
I don't know if he picked it. I think they were just like, you're gonna get to write Voodoo.
All right. So I was gonna say, like, because if I worked for DC, one of my first projects might have been. I just talked to King about this, and off mic we discussed. We had a very interesting discussion, but I won't get into. But let's just say that after that discussion, I'm not going like it. Pre that discussion, I would have wanted to do Gen 13.
Sure.
And after my discussion with him, I'm like, I guess you can't. Like, I don't think Gen 13 works anymore. I don't think you can do it. Like, they tried, and there's nothing like. The only way that Gen 13 works is if it's drawn by J. Scott Campbell and it's 1994.
Yeah, there are some concepts that are just so to the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you that I almost think Teen Titans are one of those concepts.
It's tough, man, because like Teen Titans is a great concept. It's a great team, but they're always gonna be overshadowed by the Justice League. They're always gonna be nerfed. They're always gonna get like marginalized, and editorial's always gonna like disrupt it for the bigger thing.
Mm-hmm.
And DC has like a real problem in its own DNA with where they are like. DC wants to have their cake and eat it too, man. And
yeah,
I don't mean to lecture you because you worked there, you know, but like, and I don't want to also like rag on a former employer, but I will say that like DC is like, we're the oldest, man. We got all this legacy. And also we really, really want young people to read our books. And also we really want to like, we want to turn our legacy characters into jobbers because we can't like handle the fact that we are the oldest. Like, we don't want to be the oldest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
But we also enjoy the prestige of being the oldest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's so antithetical to their own like bottom line, you know? Like, they keep hiring like new, young, hip video game and sports enthusiast people to like figure out DC. And meanwhile, DC is like, hey, Superman, truth, justice, and like, and the better tomorrow. And it's like, it's never going to work unless you like reconcile what you are.
I would say more, for me, it's the idea that they need to realize that there are different lanes. Instead of saying that everything we publish is for everyone.
Right.
I actually think the most genius thing that DC has done for 20 years is the YA line.
Yeah.
And that's because that is exactly where young kids are reading comic books right now.
Exactly.
It's on Webtoons, and it's like at their bookstore. Young kids don't go to comic book stores anymore. But at the same time, you don't want to alienate. It's funny because like, we were talking earlier about how Marvel is just like, whatever. With the multiverse. You know, we don't care.
Yeah.
I feel like in a lot of ways, DC, again, is the opposite of that. And DC is trying to like smash everything into this one ball and give the one ball to everybody. And you're like, yeah, but some people don't like balls. And some people don't like the color of that ball. And some people don't like who's handing it to them.
Yeah.
Or so like, I really feel like, you know, I kind of feel like they need to diversify more than what they are. Like, they need to have like just the YA line that's out of continuity. They need to have like lean into Black Label more.
Yeah.
You know, like, let people do out of continuity, whoever cares runs, because Elseworlds worked. They're great. It doesn't matter. And then, I don't know, man, it's one of these things where continuity is almost the
secondary. It's certainly secondary.
It is. But continuity has caused all the problems that comic book fans have had with comic books for probably the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And trying to serve that master of continuity.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had this conversation even on this show before.
Yeah.
Where I think you and I've thought that the New 52 should have just been a complete blank slate.
I mean, like, if you're going to do it,
around
you
the
have
board.
to go full 9. Absolutely.
Like,
no.
Dick Grayson is 10 years old again.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, if you're going to do that, honestly, I mean, like, the trick should have been make an ultimate line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you needed an ultimate line. Because, you know, and you had the opportunity, like, you know, DC is typically the first out of the big two. They're the publisher to try something new, to do the thing. Marvel's the one who goes, did it work? Then we'll do it. Maybe. Or did it fail? Then we won't be doing that. Like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
This is the first time DC was able to learn from Marvel where Marvel's like, we did the Ultimate line, we made a lot of mistakes, don't give Jeff Loeb anything, and just go for it. Do that. Like, I remember when Wizard Magazine did that whole Ultimate DC pitch.
I remember it was actually pretty good.
It's not only pretty good, but it's almost 1-to-1 to the Earth 1 Batman.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, Earth 1 is the Ultimate DC universe. And it because of delays and this adherence to quality, which I do appreciate, they took forever, and also they let Grant Morrison do whatever they wanted with Wonder Woman, so it doesn't fit. So it's but good. Earth 1 is Earth 1 is basically pre-Black Label.
Yeah.
It's just whatever.
Yes, I agree with you. I wish they would have leaned into Earth, because also the thing that was so exciting about that Earth 1 line was the idea that they were kind of making it like manga, where it was okay, once a year you're going to get a new one of these.
Right. Such a good idea. But that's the way that because the DC universe, I think that they created the Crisis. They defined the reboot and the new continuity, and they're the ones who created a timeline in 0 Hour, and you made themselves irrelevant within day one. Being oh, Vietnam, what are you doing? But see, and I think that's the weird thing DC has been chasing. Yeah.
Ever since Crisis on Infinite Earths, is because DC has now become known.
Yeah.
For basically reboots.
Yeah, exactly.
And crises. And you can only take that pony so far.
Right.
Okay, so let me ask you this. After this Dark Crisis or this Secret Crisis or whatever it is, do you think do you think they will reboot anything? What do you think is going to change?
No. You know what? That's a great question. Let's put a pin in it. To talk a little bit about Super Best Friend.
Oh, cool. Speaking of reboots. No, there's no reboots.
Oh. But okay, so in the description below this video, you can get a link to the Kickstarter. But for those who are not familiar with this successful Kickstarter, let's talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, Super Best Friend, issue 2 is now on Kickstarter at superbestfriendcomic.com. It is my second 44-page series. Issue in my Super Best Friend series, which follows Maddie Moore, who is the sidekick and the live streamer and a YouTube superhero fan of the world's greatest superhero, Captain Terrific. And of course, he accidentally reveals the secret identity to his best friend to the world, and he has to put that genie back in the bag. And everything I write with Super Best Friend, it's about Silver Age energy, it's about 90s energy. So I've introduced a Superman Red analog in there. I've introduced a Cyborg Superman analog in there.
Yes.
And I also reached out to Superman artist Dan Jurgens, who you should get on this show, by the way, because he's awesome.
Yes, I agree.
To do a variant cover for me. And that's all over at superbestfriendcomic.com. And we're already funded, which is great.
Yeah.
But that just means it's a pre-order now.
Right.
So, come on over to superbestfriendcomic.com. Oh, yeah, there we go. There's some office. There's the Terrific Red, if you're watching the video, and the Terrific Cyborg over there that you can check out.
I love that concept. The idea of taking the ideas of the formation of your comic book interests and infusing them into your own comic book. Who else gets to do that,
Well, I mean, that's the fun, man. Again, comic books, anybody will tell you, and I'm certain so many of your other guests have told you, making comic books is really hard. Yeah. It's really hard. And yourself.
Yeah.
That it's super hard. So, you got to make it fun however you want. So, this is how I made it fun to myself. And also, you just showed a window on there, Sal, of the chat windows and stuff like that.
Yes.
That is one of the tiers where you can be one of the chat users, kind of like people do here on YouTube with super chats. And you can be one of the people that insults or praises Captain Terrific and Maddie in Super Best Friend issue 2.
Such a great idea. Really terrific rewards. And this is not oh, is this will this turn out? How's it going to work out? No, this is you've already established this universe. You've established this world, these characters. We're talking issues 2 and 3.
Yeah, this is issue 2 of 3, and because the Kickstarter campaign is fully funded now, that means that it will fund issue 3, because that's how I do it. I use the funds from this issue to fund the art.
Such a good idea.
So George Kamadias can sit there and draw, because You know, it's a full-time job for him.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's not a full-time job for me. I can write like 5 or 6 pages in a day. He can draw a page a day.
Right.
So, but he's almost done with issue 2. So like
Nice.
this will be like this should end. You know, banning any crazy paper shortages.
Right. God,
hopefully this will happen by September.
Ooh.
So.
That's sooner than you know. It's coming.
Yep.
So check out superbestfriendcomic.com. Our incredible moderator Danielle just dropped it into the chat, and you can find it, of course, in the description below this video. So click it and check it out. See the rewards and look at the art and try it out.
Do you want to hit some of these super chats and see what people are saying?
I think we should. Yeah, let's check in with the audience here, because of course this show is sponsored by our audience and their incredible super chats.
The people like you.
The people, yeah, for people like you, exactly. I just gotta scroll up because it's gotta catch up here.
Oh, okay.
Let's see if this is everybody. Elizabeth Russell, hey guys, hope you're well. 2 villains I would like to see more storylines about is Maxwell Lord and Scarecrow. I feel like Maxwell Lord, he's probably been hidden or hiding enough. Like he got a lot of exposure. Now I think it's
thanks
time
to Infinite Crisis.
Yeah,
he was like overexposed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Scarecrow, nobody ever knows what to do with him.
Yeah.
Mickey Veach, did you guys ever see The Long Halloween Parts 1 and 2? I know you guys haven't been fans of the animated movies in recent years. I saw the first one and thought that was enough. You?
I saw both of them. I thought it was a pretty good adaptation, because like how the hell can you adapt that story?
I agree.
I wasn't a fan of the animated style though.
No, me either. It was not great.
But hey man, I'm surprised that we're getting close to. We're gonna cross the line, I think, of 20 years of these movies very soon.
Yeah.
Which is crazy that they've been doing these for 20 years.
Yeah. No. And some of them are really, really great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have the box set of like the first 10 years. It's crazy. There's a lot of gems in there.
There are. That Wonder Woman movie's great. Mm-hmm. The First Flight is great.
All-Star Superman is great.
All-Star Superman, New Frontier.
New Frontier is great. I even like the Dark Knight Returns adaptation they did.
Me too. I like it. It's very different. Not very different, but I like it. And I would love Year One if the voice was different for Batman.
Yeah. Commissioner Gordon doesn't do a good voice for Batman.
Yeah, no. Dan V900, Jason Todd, of course, is pitched by Jason on the Deaths episode. I would rather have just seen him dead. Ra's al Ghul and Vandal Savage are underutilized. I feel like Ra's al Ghul, nobody ever knows what to do with him correctly. And Vandal Savage, it's like people go, "Oh yeah, like that character."
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny. All these characters, and even the stuff we've been talking about, the greatest villains, and the Great Darkness. The one thing I like about the Great Darkness that Josh is introducing is that it is a new concept.
Right.
I would rather it even be a new concept than Darkseid again.
Totally. Which I was fully expecting. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of Infinite Frontier, you expect Darkseid. I mean, they set it up where it's like he kills the Quintessence, and he's like, "Ah." You're like, "All right, Darkseid's big bad. How are they going to kill him this time?"
Yep.
But now, no.
Just give Batman a gun.
Yeah, with a special bullet. Brian Rowlands, Rogazar, one of the worst characters invented in the last 10 years.
Less said about him, the better.
Yep. Joshua Vaughn, 3 words, World War Starro. Love it.
Sure.
Dan V, if Vandal Savage was elevated, I did not want him to be like the version in Young Justice where he is responsible for everything in the DCU. I mean, if anyone could, that would be the one, right? Because he's the oldest. Like,
it's so interesting. I actually think Vandal Savage on Young Justice is like one of the most interesting versions of that character. Because otherwise he just comes off as either Nazi or scary caveman.
Yeah.
And both versions aren't very interesting.
No, although I do like the idea of like a person who like has been living this long, and you know how everyone gets nostalgic for the good old days, and it's like, well, you were a caveman. He's like, I prefer hunting for food and punching big monsters and you know, just taking what I want. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of him kind of like regressing every once in a while, like when he gets too comfortable,
eating, cannibalizing like one of his fellow like supervillains.
Well, maybe not that specifically, but Cam Senses, kneel before Tempest Fugonaut. Tempest Fugonaut is one of those characters I hate so much, and I love how much he sucks, and I want a statue of him. Like I want a figure. I want a McFarlane figure of Tempest Fugonaut. I want a statue.
Am I crazy? Did they not kill him recently?
They did kill. I thought they killed him.
Am I wrong about that?
Wasn't. Well, they're a race of Huguenots. They could always say it wasn't him.
All right.
But I think they killed him in like a Batman book or a Justice League book. I don't remember which one it was.
Something, yeah. I don't know. Somebody in the comments tell us.
Yeah.
Is he dead?
Is he dead?
I don't know.
Psycho Red sells the city inspector of the Moon Girl. In the Moon Girl, he cast your list.
This week's GHL is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. And
great.
If you've ever read the new Moon Girl, she has a secret laboratory underneath the high school. And I make the joke that the New Jersey city inspector is going to show up and be like, hey, what's up with these plans? And I named it Sal.
Nice. Thank you. Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah. I was like, who's the city inspector that doesn't see this giant basement?
Right.
on the plans.
What is this? Chance Topper, just want to quote the Tom King episode and say, Chance is always a little bit drunk. Love the discussion, guys. Have a great one. Yeah, he is. Just read that book. It's amazing. Dan Wesley, $5 super sticker. Thank you so much for your great super stickers. I'm sorry. I wish that we could actually show you the stickers in StreamYard. You can't.
Oh, do you see an image?
You see an image in the chat. Like, I'll see it later. But I can't see it here. It doesn't let me do it.
Okay.
Yeah, super stickers are way too hard to code, I guess, for StreamYard.
That makes sense.
Sam Anderson, Pitch Sinestro goes on an Infinity Gauntlet-like quest to merge with the beings that represent the Lantern Spectrum, a proactive fascist with omniscient power. That's a big villain. Yeah,
that's true.
That's true. It's tough, man. I mean, like, whenever you want to do... You can't do your typical Nazi or fascist story anymore because now they're, like, living among us, and... So you have to make it contemporary, and it's like, that's not fun.
and see, that's the fun. That like, isn't it shocking that is our world now? Because the reason why Nazis were the big villains for like the 80s and 90s is because they were so of an other time.
Yeah.
They were like, oh yeah, they're from the 40s and 50s. We know they're all bad. Yep. And da-da-da. And now you can't do them because there's there's like 50% of the audience out there that are like, but were they bad?
Right.
I mean, genocide, right? We won't get into that topic, but you can't touch them now.
You can't. Well, I'm telling you, because like anyone who does feels like this moral or societal responsibility to be like, they live among us, like they're around, and it's like. Yeah. I think making fun of them is the best way to do it.
I agree.
Because it makes them feel like shame. I know they're incapable of it, but like societally speaking, like let's say that you found a Klansman robe in like a relative's house, you'd be like, you're the worst. Mm-hmm. And they'd be like, shit, I guess I better hide it better. But they feel that like shame.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to get into that.
No, yeah. Sorry.
Amarta Acharya, hi, Sal and Jason. Question to Jason: what did you think of Doomsday Clock? Well, we answered that question. Also, if this is the crisis, then what was Death Metal? Another crisis. That's what.
Well, it was the Metal Wars apparently.
Metal Wars. Yeah.
Oh, wait, Sal, I'm going to ask you a question here.
Yes. Okay.
I'm going to assume you have read Metal.
Yes.
And the second one was called Dark. No, what was the second one called?
Death Metal.
Death Metal. Thank you.
You told me, by the way. You spilled the beans. You were like,
"Oh, I did.
They're working on the sequel. And they're going to call it Death Metal." And
then, that's right.
6 months later, they were like Death Metal. I'm like, I knew that.
Yeah, that's right. I found that out a little bit early. Yeah, that's right. And I think I was like, Sal, this is what they're calling it. So, can you tell me, what the
hell happened
in a paragraph, what happened to those two events? Because like. What? I'm just curious. Like, why would you call that a war over a crisis?
Right, because no one wanted to call it a crisis. Didn't they want to call it the Dark Crisis? And then like
that was the original title. No? I think Scott Snyder said that in an interview that the original title was Dark Crisis, which is why I think the new one might be called Dark Crisis because they've got it sitting on a shelf.
Yeah. It's like Amazon's Attack. Like apparently they had an idea for Amazon's Attack, like pre-Infinite Crisis, and they didn't do it. And then like afterwards, they're like, hey, we still have this Amazon's Attack idea. Let's ruin it. With respect to Dark Knight's Metal, that I think tried to be like another rebirth because it reestablished Martian Manhunter, the Challenge of the Unknown, the Red Tornado, like all these classic fan favorite characters, while also not making them in any way relevant or giving them an opportunity.
Because it did a reset at the end, because like Wonder Woman disappeared.
Yeah, well, that was at the end of Death Metal. At the end of
Death Metal,
right.
Sorry.
Well, at the end of the Death Metal, okay. With Death Metal, it's easier to define because like they destroy everything. The Earth Prime is destroyed, and Wonder Woman, I don't know, like gets gold and punches the Batman Who Laughs, who merges with a version of Bruce Wayne who is Dr. Manhattan, which really sucks, and Dr. Manbattan.
Dr. Manbattan, yes.
But ultimately, like. Basically, like, she gets to reset the DC universe. So it's kind of a crisis, because the universe is rebuilt. A la Franklin Richards and Secret Wars. But, like, it's more like she makes it all happen. So, like, that is a great... The other one, Dark Knight's Metal, is just, like, everything gets wrecked, but everyone is still who they were at the end. And for a few characters... It's like a DC versus Marvel, where for a few characters get to see the clockwork.
Okay.
But everybody else just went through a crazy adventure.
But they don't remember it.
But they don't... no, they do remember it. But they remember, like, evil Batman messing things up and a mountain growing in the middle of Gotham. Like, that's all that people remember. Because if you recall, after that, they created the Dark Matter Universe characters, which was their attempt at, like, the Invasion relaunch or the New Guardians relaunch. Where they're like, look, it's Sideways and... you know, the Terrifics and
which were all supposed to be connected to Metal, and then they only showed up in like one panel.
That's right. Yeah, or didn't at all, and they retconned them in. They were like, Silencer. She has nothing to do with it, but she's here too. And then they all got canceled because, of course, they did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what the hell happened in those books. I mean, I know because I read them, but like, nothing that mattered. You know, like. Some people got a lot more money from residuals. That's what happened in that book.
Well, Silencer might be the only one that we actually see in something else. So.
Yeah, Silencer, I think, is in the CW or something.
She showed up on Arrow.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And everyone says they like Sideways, but not enough to keep the book alive.
Yeah, I like Sideways, but yeah, it's weird that there's a lot of it where Sideways is just retelling Jaime Reyes' Blue Beetle story over again.
Bingo. Yep. But you asked a great question, which was, will they reboot after this crisis? Is there going to be a reboot?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but also...
like, shouldn't they?
Well, I don't know, but they just did a reboot.
Yeah.
I feel like they did a reboot post Doomsday Clock. I feel like they did a reboot post Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Yep.
So I'm like, how many?
They were all like half-measure reboots because Doomsday Clock. They just went by the time issue 10 came out, everyone at DC clearly said we're not doing whatever it says at the end.
Yeah,
like just whatever they say, it doesn't matter.
Well, Doomsday Clock was so delayed.
Yes, you know? It was delayed, and they got Bendis in between. And Bendis said, "Well, I really want to do the Legion of Superheroes," and they were like, "Well, Johns has a big plan for the Legion of Superheroes at the end of Doomsday Clock," and he's like, "Okay, cool, I don't care."
Yeah. Or they were just like, just do it anyway.
Just do it anyway. Well, it was like, remember when Grant Morrison was like, please don't touch the fourth world until after Final Crisis? And they were like, no.
Yep. And then they did that whole like Death of the New Gods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, how could you not learn these lessons? But there was no reboot after Doomsday Clock. All that happened was like Superman remembered or Superman got they retconned in the Justice Society, the Legion of Superheroes, and Superman's origin.
Yeah, because they basically reset it to pre-New 52.
Yes, like they restored the post-Crisis universe, except in Doomsday Clock also, John says that post-Crisis, the universe that existed in DC that was like the continuity before Crisis established one universe, that is its own universe, Earth 1985, and that still is happening, and no one's ever written anything about it.
Earth in 1985, huh?
Yeah, like what the DC universe was in 1985 has its own universe.
Oh, interesting. So it's like the original timeline is still out there.
Yes, yeah.
Or at least the Silver Age timeline.
The Silver Age timeline, yeah. And then and Death Metal, that's a reboot because she literally rebuilt the entire universe from scratch.
Yeah.
But seemingly she just left it as exactly where it was right before Death Metal happened.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just too many reboots, man.
Yeah, too many reboots.
I think we just need to stop with these reboots. We just need to stop them.
Yeah, I think that the trick is they should say no more reboots and anything you want to do that's new and crazy, put it over there. Put it in the. If you want to do like an out there Swamp Thing story, that's Black Label. You want to do a new Batman, probably going to be Black Label, but also like if you want to like establish.
There have been some Black Label books, by the way, that have not been like adult. They have just basically been just straight up superhero books, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't like that. I think Black Label should be like the adult line. Otherwise, what is it?
Well, yeah. I mean that goes back to this internal conversation of should they have ever canceled Vertigo, and the answer is no.
No.
You know.
No, it's outrageous that they canceled Vertigo. Anyway, really quick, let's go through a couple super chats.
Sure, no worries.
Jordan Thrill. Hey guys, just wanted to say the last live stream you guys did was really fun, and I'm happy to see another one with just as entertaining of a discussion. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man.
Jason makes it very easy to be entertaining. The
Very
derpiest to derps phrasing when talking about balls. Yes, I knew that was coming.
Yep.
Lol.
Look, it's just a metaphor I picked, okay?
Please. The Clit Commander, been a Jason Inman fan since the old days of Collider and the Schmodown. Love listening to you guys chat about comics. Keep up the great work.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thank you for your support. Yeah, good poll. We're just catching up here. Horrible gelatinous blob. My favorite villain in all of comic books is the Penguin. Wish DC would treat him how Marvel treats Kingpin.
I agree.
Penguin as the Kingpin.
They like him better as a joke.
Yes, they keep doing that, man. You know, I was delving into the Riddler recently because Riddler's gonna be in Batman. Yep. We should do a Riddler story for the Batman episode, and DC gives 0 Fs about Riddler.
No, they don't. And the Riddler is like one of Batman's best villains.
That's the thing. Like if you were like name the top 3 Batman villains but eliminate the Joker, Riddler is in that list. And yet there are no collected Riddler stories. We were going to do. I was so psyched, man.
Okay.
I was like, okay, Run Riddler Run, the 3-issue prestige bound 1991 or 92 story that everybody talks about being a Riddler story. We're going to do it on back issues. The writer's a pedophile?
Oh, is that what's his name?
Creator of Prime, Gerard, whatever?
Yes, Gerard Jones, I think, maybe?
Gerard Jones. And I was like,
yes.
Because I was like, oh, this is gonna go great. Like this book sucks. And I'm reading up on it. I'm like, Gerard, and I'm like, oh.
Isn't it?
Well, that's that.
Yeah, I understand. It's the same thing. That creator, we don't need to say his name anymore.
No.
That creator, in my opinion, has also written one of the greatest John Stewart stories of all time, Green Lantern Mosaic.
Oh, yeah.
Green Lantern Mosaic has never been collected.
And it never will be.
And it never will be. It was going to come out. They were making some other like Green Lantern John Stewart thing, and they were going to put all the issues of Mosaic in it. And so I was so excited. I was like, cool, I'm going to buy this because they're never going to print this ever again.
No.
Because it's like basically Green Lantern Deep Space Nine, and nobody read it. And then 2 months before it was going to come out, he got convicted, and they canceled the collection.
2016 or something like that.
Yep.
So it's very recently.
Yeah. But I understand. Like, no, I agree with you. The Riddler is a villain that doesn't get much respect. I don't know how to feel about the Riddler in The Batman. I think it's an interesting pitch to make him like the Zodiac Killer, but also in some respects, I'm like, well, that's not really the Riddler then.
No, that's the Zodiac Killer versus Batman.
That's the Zodiac Killer versus Batman.
Yeah. Now, I love the idea, because I think either it came out through discussion or somebody suggested it in the Super Chat a while back, but like I love the idea that, because he's overly complicated. He's got a question mark on the thing, and he's got like duct tape face.
He looks like Hush.
He looks like Hush.
Yeah.
I would love it if at the end, he gets his ass kicked, because I think he's trying to go with anonymity.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's caught, he's like, oh, actually, it's better if everybody does know who I am. And he gets like a bowler hat and a jacket. And he goes into full Riddler at the end.
I don't know if I see that happening here.
I don't see that happening either, but I would love for it if it was like a Riddler origin story, like we're setting up Riddler.
I have a theory that there is a secret villain in this movie that we haven't seen. Because
that makes sense.
if you notice the trailers and the TV spots we've seen so far,
2 scenes, that's it.
It keeps showing the same stuff. And so for me, I'm like, oh, there's something in this movie that they don't want to show us.
That's awesome. And I think it's funny because like it's almost to its detriment because like nobody's talking about the Batman.
Yeah, it's kind of like we actually saw a billboard for it here the other day.
Yes, I saw the billboard.
And it surprised me because I was like, "Oh crap, that's coming out in a month,
a week." No,
Yeah,
a month.
It's March 4th, I believe.
March 4th. I have tickets already. I'm going.
Oh, do you? Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of weirdly for a Batman movie. It's kind of
stealth.
It's weird. I don't know, man. Like I don't know if this is gonna have the Spider-Man No Way Home blow up, because Spider-Man No Way Home, you had the idea of like, well, I'm pretty certain Tobey's in it, and I'm pretty certain Andrew's in it, but this one, I kind of think is like, I don't know. I kind of think most people's reactions for people are either really jazzed for it, or people are like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I'm in the I don't know crowd.
I think the Warner Brothers is like that. I want to be hyped. This is it. If you had shown me this trailer out of every trailer, including the Nolan trilogy, if you showed me this trailer when I was in high school, I'd be like, this is gonna be the best Batman movie of all time.
Sure, I probably would have said the same thing in high school.
Right, but now I've seen 3 different iterations of Batman on screen, and I'm like, who cares anymore?
I kind of so Sal, I just saw this in the chat. By the way, this is so funny. I think this might have been the first time it ever happened. There is breaking news about what we were. I put it in the private chat, my friend.
Oh, great. Okay. Oh no, you're right.
DC literally, while we were talking, announced Dark Crisis.
They sure did. That's so funny. Oh my god, there it is.
Thanks to who put that in the comments here?
Right?
Let's see here. Who put that? I saw one of our listeners, Nuke. Nuke, thank you for pointing that out to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see the cover, Dark Crisis. It's the official title. It says that Justice League 75 is going to kick it off. That's when the death of the new Justice League is going to happen.
Yes. The death of Justice League, which we did know about. I remember them announcing that.
And apparently it's also going to have a tie-in to the Dark Crisis. There's apparently going to be Dark Crisis 0, the free comic book. That's going to be DC's free comic book day.
Good idea.
So I love that. I remember when Blackest Night did that, and I always thought it was the genius way to kick off an event.
Yes, absolutely. Remove as much of the barrier to entry as possible.
Dude, what timing we had that the minute we were recording this live, we're talking about this, and here it comes, and we're like, I wonder what they're going to call it.
Well, I think
we gave a climax to this podcast.
We did. That's it. I don't think we could end it on a higher note, but like, let me read some super chats, but then we can wrap up.
Please, no rush.
Dark Crisis, yes.
Yep.
Oh my god. And it's gonna end with and that's actually brilliant because like they're gonna take off the table Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern.
So it will be the darkest of Crisis.
Well, I guess. I mean, like 52 is kind of a Crisis. Crises?
Crises? Is it Crises? It is Crises.
I think it's Crises, yeah.
Yeah.
Luke Varillo, haven't caught a live show in a minute. Take this money. Will do. Thank you very much, Luke. What about a new LOD with Owlman leading? Oh, Legion of Doom and General Zod.
Legion of Doom.
It'd be nice to have a definitive take on Zod that challenges the whole league. I've never seen Zod take on the league. I've seen him team up with Ra's al Ghul in a really fun story.
I think it's funny, you were saying earlier that you think Ra's al Ghul is overused. I think Zod is overused.
I think Zod needs to be used.
I want Zod to go away for like 20 years.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Plus, I don't even know like what is Zod anymore. Like,
Nobody knows. It changes every writer. Every writer changes it.
Yeah. RK, Connor Kent shirt. Nice. Hopefully he will return to the mainstream continuity someday.
By the way, we pointed out, I don't know if we haven't brought this up on air, but we noticed that we are doing a Batman and Superman thing, and we did this accidentally.
I did not intend. I just have a lot of Batman shirts, but that's amazing. Cat Lawyer, Grodd is a big bad, might be a fun palate cleanser. Yeah, I'd love that, because, Grodd in the animated series was incredible.
Yes. If done right, yes, I agree.
It was so good. The voice cast of of Justice League Unlimited.
Powers Booth was Gorilla Grodd.
Powers Booth as Grodd?
The late, great Powers Booth from Deadwood. Yep.
I will never forget. I will always remember. Every time anybody says Grodd, I always think of that scene where Luthor takes over the like secret society / Legion of Doom and puts Grodd in an airlock.
Oh yeah. And
he said, and it's Clancy Brown versus Powers Booth, and he says, it could have gone the other way, and Grodd goes, it really could have, couldn't it? And Luthor goes, nope.
It's funny. We've been reviewing Justice League the animated series over at our Patreon.
Oh.
And we finally got to the end of season 1. And it is one of these things where the voice casting on that series, they brought in Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
And they cast Dallas's Patrick Duffy. as Steve Trevor. And I was, yeah, so like my co-host, my friend Jeremy is the co-host, and I was sitting there being like, who's the voice of Steve Trevor? And he's like, it's Dallas's Patrick Duffy. And I was like, what? Why would
Patrick Duffy?
Step by Steps Patrick Duffy? Like, and you're just like, how did they get these actors? I guess the only idea is that I guess because they could probably just go in for 2 hours and record the entire episode.
Right. Yeah, no, when you find out, like, Morena Baccarin plays Black Canary.
Yeah.
And it's like, and she keeps coming back.
I remember
got the whole cast. They almost got all of Firefly.
I remember asking when Matt Ryan recorded Just League Dark, the animated series.
Yeah.
Or the movie. And I remember, like, talking to him for an interview and saying, like, oh, how was it? What was it like recording this movie? And his first answer was, he was like, well, it was 8 hours in a booth and it was a great day. And I was like, it was only 8 hours?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in my jams. Like, who cares? That's amazing. That's awesome. CJ Stevenson, personally, I find the DC's biggest problem is, as mentioned, they're going through an identity crisis. They don't know what they are and are scrambling for relevancy. I don't know if they're scrambling for relevancy. I know that people are quick to dismiss DC as, like, not relevant, but in the 90s, they were number 3 in a 2 publisher structure. I mean, it's still the big 2. They are back to being the big 2. Like, it was never darker than when they were owned by a parent company. It still couldn't outsell Profit or the Max. You know,
I mean, well, even look at the most recent sales figures. I think that just came out from the end of last year. Image is number 1.
Oh, really?
Image in terms of comics. Oh no. If you look at the top 10 graphic novels and the top 10 comics, Image has more books in those lists than DC or Marvel.
Wow.
Yeah.
That should be a wake-up call for the industry. It won't be, because the industry learns the lesson the last, but, like, about what people want and about providing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Captain Coon, I'd like to see somebody other than Alan Moore and maybe Jim Starlin, I don't know, do something to make Mongol the big bad of the DCU. I think Mongol has never been the big bad and should never be. I don't think
Well, he's the big bad in Superman right now.
Yeah, he sure is. Zach Thwack, can't forget DC's biggest villain, Dan DiDio.
I don't agree with that, but sure.
Yeah, Dan did a lot of good and bad, and took all the blame, like a good president should.
That's a thing I think a lot of people don't realize, is that when you're a publisher of a comic company or any kind of publishing company, when things are going well, you're the person that everybody praises.
Yeah.
When things are going bad, you're the person that everybody shits on. And I think Dan got shit on way more than he got praised, because I think without Dan, I think DC would basically not exist right now.
Not in the form you recognize it as.
Exactly. I think DC would be further down in the hole than it is right now. I think because here's the easy argument, right?
Yeah.
Here's the clear example of this. Everybody praises Kevin Feige all the time.
Right.
Everybody does nothing but bitch at Kathleen Kennedy.
That's true.
Is Marvel doing any worse than Star Wars right now? I don't think so. But that's the way the fandom views it.
No, that's true. That's very true.
You know,
I shouldn't. No, Dan DiDio did have personal problems with characters, and he let that affect his judgment. And so I will say that he does deserve that. We had him on the show. We talked about it. He was very magnanimous and friendly about it. So, like, but you know, it wasn't that, like, oh, poor Dan. It was, he knew the job. He did the job.
Yeah, he did the job, and
he loved comics. That's the difference. Like, he did.
That's the thing. Like, that's the thing. And I think maybe that's the thing I jive against more, where people are just like, F Dan DiDio, and you're like, he loved those books. Whatever. Yeah. Like, look, he made good decisions and he made bad decisions, just like anybody else in that job would have.
Yeah. Matt Mikado says, first time chatter. Well, welcome to the show, man. Just wanted to say happy 100K. Thank you. We hit 100K the other couple weeks ago over on the other channel. Let's do that here. We're not going to do that here. Here's to new heights. I've been watching since the weekly poll started, and I don't think I've missed an episode, and find it insane y'all haven't blown up. Thank you very much, man. That's very kind of you. Yeah, man. Weekly poll days. You've been on the weekly poll before, back when we were a thing.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. That was the thing. Girk Pectus, I think Luthor is the DC's biggest villain. What I love about him is that he's willing to do absolutely anything to win, things even the Joker won't do. That's fair. Yeah, I like Luthor. He's a great evil villain. They have to take him away for a while because of Apex Lex, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. The Captain Coon, I miss the days of villains stealing the airwaves to announce their big plans. I don't care if it makes sense in the real world. Give me a clue master giving clues to his crimes during the 6 p.m. news.
Then you like the Riddler. That's what you think. Yeah. You know, that's what the Riddler is.
Right? The derpiest of derps. I think Riddler's and Batman is going to be akin to Ra's al Ghul and Batman Begins, reversed, where it's going to start different and then go classic. That'd be cool. Except Ra's never went classic. He just wasn't magic.
Mm-hmm. Or again, like I think, like I could see a Batman Begins twist where there is like, secret Ra's al Ghul or even secret Joker or somebody else out there.
I would see that happening, no question.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. I think you're onto something, Jason. Gotham City critics, Tempest Fugonaut back for DC Crisis? Nope, he'll never come back.
Really?
I love him because so the reason why we like Tempest, and I know we're gonna get you out of here, but I will.
It's fine. It's all fine.
Go on this tangent here, where in the Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Tempest Fugonaut is the framing device, but also he's like, is there anyone in the Dark Multiverse that I can collect for my Dark Crisis? Because Tempest Fugonaut was teasing a Dark Crisis.
Oh, interesting.
And I think it was because that was what they were going to call death metal. So he's like, and I love it because back when death metal maybe was like going to be more scaled down, maybe when, maybe there was more editorial control, but like Tempest Fugonaut was going to have like a collection of heroes who emerged from the Tales from the Dark Multiverse imprint.
Really?
That was the implication of the narrative. Now, where it's like, I'll get, the Batman from the Nightfall What If, and the Supergirl or Superwoman, Lois Lane, the Eradicator from Death of Superman's What If, and, like Sinestro from the Blackest Night What If, and I'll have like this Justice League, this dark Justice League. But that never happened because like no one cared and no one wanted to do that. And Scott Snyder did not want to use Tempest Fugonaut. And that was that. And instead he got punched in the face by Duke. And that was the end of the book.
It's one of these things where this just goes more and more to me where I feel like we know too much about the behind the scenes machinations about stories.
Yeah.
And we let that influence the story instead of just enjoying the story.
Yes. No, meta reading has dominated comic books.
That's a great... Is that what it's actually called? Meta reading?
That's what we've been calling it.
That's a great term, meta reading.
Right? Because you can never just go like, oh, Scott Snyder's at it again. Like that's how I read it sometimes. But like I will say that I still have moments when I'm reading comic books where I am taken out of that moment. And
fair.
That's how I'm like, people are like, you're cynical and you hate it. And like, I can still be lost in a book. And if that's still the case, then I am not too far gone,
Yeah.
Michael Loco, as far as Batman, I think the Court of Owls would be a good villain in the Batman movie, or even Joaquin Phoenix Joker, but he could become more like Jigsaw Joker, manipulating Gotham is a big joke.
I think I didn't even think about that until you said it, but Court of Owls could be the real villains of that movie.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool.
I actually would not be. I guess
they're in the game.
They're in the game, yeah. So I guess it depends on whether they think it would be stepping on toes.
I don't think they would. I think because they're owned by one company, they're kind of like, go for it.
You don't know, man, because like I will say, like, so it's Constantine was pulled from Legends of Tomorrow last year because they're doing something with him in Justice League Dark.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But also, hey, Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
Pectus, have you seen Browse Held High's video on LXG? He visually shows every single literary reference Alan Moore makes. It's literally insane. Everything is a reference. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Alan Moore is a great writer. He knows what he's doing. Just some guy with a mustache. I'm going to write to DC and give them the idea to use Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm sorry, to do Crisis on Infinite Crises just to see if they'll do it. There you go.
Well, I will tell you that they will immediately throw it away.
Yeah, they can't read anything unsolicited.
They legally cannot read any unsolicited story pitch.
Yeah. Zach Crackham TTV, thank you very much for your support, man. And we're caught up. We did it.
Hey!
Thank you all so much for your support.
We survived the super chat crisis. No, it's not. We love your super chats. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Dark Crisis, man. Wow. Here we are.
So is this going to be the most timely Elseworlds exchange of all time?
Yeah, no, I think so. We
literally were like, I wonder what they'll call it. And boom.
Yeah, and then someone's like, oh, there's a link right here. It just came out. It's for 2 seconds.
Yeah, you dummies.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Man, Dark Crisis.
Sorry we started this live chat 45 minutes early. Yeah, no, that's not what that person was implying. But
no, it's true. It's true.
That's so interesting.
I'm excited. I does it say who's writing Dark Crisis?
I mean, I assume it's Joshua Williamson, right?
I hope so. because I think Josh deserves it because he's been building towards it the whole time.
I would assume it's him. I mean, it doesn't say who it is.
No, it doesn't. But
it is a little strange, right?
But it is stemming from Deathstroke Inc. and Robin, and apparently there's going to be a Shadow... The Shadow War is going to dovetail into this as well.
Well, okay, so it also says... Okay, it says it's kicked off by Justice League 75, which I think is
Bendis
Josh...
is writing it.
Who's Bendis?
Josh is writing it. Or not ghostwriting it, but he's jumping in to write that one.
Okay, and then it's like Dark Crisis 0. Then there's going to be a Justice League Road to Dark Crisis special. And then we're getting the Dark Crisis. Well, look, they got to make their money, people. Like, they got to make you buy the issue over and over and over again.
That's true. At least it's not a series. Road to Dark Crisis is one issue. I appreciate that.
I mean, remember Infinite Crisis when it was like 4 different miniseries all leading into it, and the Infinite Crisis like one shot whatever it was where Ted Kord died?
Yeah. And you needed it all. Ugh.
You did need it all. Yeah.
But anyway,
I actually, by the way, I think I still have. I think I have that Infinite Crisis special.
Oh.
Signed by Alex Ross. I think I have that.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. I have a comic book back signed by Alex Ross. He was at New York Comic Con. Nobody was at the booth, and I'm like, "Hey, could I get you to sign this?" He's like, "Sure thing." And I thought like maybe he'd draw like a Superman crest or something. He wrote his name really big, and that was that.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
He does big squiggles.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and they're very squiggly.
Yeah.
But listen, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us. But before you go, don't forget to visit superbestfriendcomic.com. Check the description for more, but also check out Jason's Kickstarter because this book is joyful and fun and a love letter to the comics that formed the people that you like to watch talk about comic books.
Yeah, please come check it out, guys. It's a 44-page adventure. You can get issue 1. And if you enjoy anything I've said here on the podcast, on the live show, one of my favorite rewards is I do script consultations. So I've worked for CBS Television for like about 4 years now. I've worked for DC. I worked with Rhett and Link on Good Mythical Morning. So if you have a comic script or a screenplay or even a TV pilot that you want some notes on, I'm happy to read it. And that is a tier over there. So
that is a worthwhile tier. I should check that tier. I already backed it, but I should see where it was. But I think I have it for 150, which if you look at other other professional screenwriters and stuff like that will put, and that is a steal. That is a steal.
That is usually like $1,000. So
it's rare you get this kind of access to a pro. So give it a look. But otherwise, we'll see you guys next time on another episode of Elseworlds Exchange. And thanks so much for watching. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe. And we'll see you guys there. I'm Sal.
I'm Jason. Bye-bye.
So long.